by and large, if you look at the large scale, we had a very nice form of capitalism that created the America we all know today. What happened and sort of shifted in the 1970s is somebody who was an admirer. There were a lot of very hardcore, pure capitalists who admired de Tocqueville. Hayek and Road to Serfdom. Actually, that term, the Road to Serfdom, came out of de Tocqueville's writings. And Milton Friedman, right up here, was a fan of de Tocqueville too. But Milton Friedman put forward a theory, the idea that the only thing that matters is the shareholder, that capitalism has no social need. You have to look out for the shareholders and everything else will take care of itself. That took hold. That, based on these conversations, and I'm talking very ardent capitalists, Paul Tudor Jones, Steve Case, Mark Benioff, people who all learned, like so many people here, and like I did, in business school or in undergrad or just from the school of life, that this was gospel. Take care. Warren Buffett, who I've had many conversations with and always talked about, I want to be a pure capitalist and then I'll be a pure philanthropist. He's a great philanthropist and he's a great capitalist. And he was always talking about doing it pure. A lot of this comes out of Friedman in the 1970s, but a lot of people are walking that back and saying, what I learned about Friedman is wrong. And what you saw in the 80s and 90s is something that happened. I was looking at, while putting this study together, on some kind of consistent survey. The best I could do is a Gallup survey on bank. What do you think of banks? Which seems like a decent proxy for capitalism, big business, Wall Street. And look what happened. 1979, we have a 60% confidence in banks. Today's 30%, and during the downturn it was 22%. It was just a pure straight down, and if you think about even, I can remember in the 1990s, who remembers Al Dunlap here? Remember? Chainsaw Al. He was a folk hero, Chainsaw. He wrote a book, Chainsaw. He wrote another book called, Mean Business. I still remember it. I was on a trip, kind of a business exchange in Switzerland in the late 90s, and the U.S. ambassador to Switzerland gave all the Swiss CEOs a copy of Al Dunlap's book, Mean Business. I still remember that. That was considered now you're going to learn what capitalism is about. Chainsaw will tell you. That's what happened. This is the chainsaw era, but look what happens to the confidence in what we all hold dear, which is the economic system of America. So what should the priorities of America be? What is authentic? What do Americans want? Well, if you want to know what Americans want, numbers above me are what Americans want. I'm on a board of a nonprofit called Just Capital, which is funded by Paul Tudor Jones, the hedge fund manager, who is very, very worried about everything Eric talked about. He's worried about if we don't do something about this, the system that's been so good for all of us is going to collapse. And so he's put a lot of money into this, and Just Capital has done an unbelievable survey. They've surveyed 81,000 Americans. This is the best survey I've ever seen. 81,000 Americans. Why do you survey and spend millions of dollars to survey 81,000 Americans? Because what he wanted was a perfect snapshot of what Americans want from corporations. He wanted a perfect snapshot. So when you survey 81,000 Americans, if you say, well, wait a second, the left-handed blind dentists aren't represented, they are. You can actually statistically drill down that far when you survey 81,000 people. And look this is what America wants from its companies. What should the priorities be? First is workers. This is not a union survey. This is America. First, workers. Last, shareholders. First, workers. Last, shareholders. Customers, products, environments. You see it straight down. But first, workers. Last, shareholders. That's what America wants. That's what America wants from an authentic company right now.